We would be able to hire almost 200 export enforcement special agents stationed across the United States who are responsible for apprehending and charging criminals who seek to profit by unlawfully transmitting American technology to our adversaries. And this increase would also enable BIS to more than double the number of what we call export control officers, ECOs, who are enforcement officials stationed overseas, from 12 at present to 30. These ECOs are critical for monitoring foreign entity compliance with U.S. export controls. A portion of the requested budget increase would also fund specialized engineers and technical experts who support BIS's enforcement efforts, for example, by determining whether a license was required for a particular export that has already taken place. These enforcement efforts are not only critical to protect national security, but they can also pay for themselves in penalty revenue that results from the enforcement actions. BIS has an outsized role to play in promoting national security and supporting the President's America First trade policy. The Bureau's increased responsibilities in administering and enforcing export controls, including in maintaining America's technological leadership in critical and emerging technologies like AI, and investigating imports that threaten our national security. These tasks require commensurate resources. It's time for BIS to have the resources that it needs to do its job and keep America safe. The President's budget recognizes and enables this. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kessler. I appreciate that. And I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes for some questions. And I'm not sure you may or may not actually be aware of this, but at 10:08, Commerce Department released a statement announcing Micron Technologies doing a $200 billion investment in memory chips here in the United States. And I know the ranking member has expressed some concern about where government funding has gone on technology and technology development and R&D. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the One Big Beautiful Bill reinstates R&D and allows the private sector to go do that. In my mind, it has to be a partnership. We cannot just expect that the federal government's going to do much of this. So I was proud to introduce the Bipartisan Chip Security Act. Representative Foster and I, who we served together on the financial services as well, we worked on that, which would require location tracking on AI chip exports. Undersecretary Kessler, you are requesting 133% increase to BIS's enforcement budget, and you laid out that would allow you to double the number of agents, I believe, that are looking at the enforcement. Are you seeing a large number of diversions of U.S. AI chips, and could location tracking potentially assist BIS in preventing diversions of these chips to China?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do see significant efforts by wrongdoers to divert AI chips, as well as other products that are export controlled. But we see those more commonly than you might expect. And we have enforcement operations that are active to address those types of activities. I'm concerned that we're not catching all of it, that there's a lot that goes undetected, and this budget is intended to enable us to catch more of it and prevent more wrongdoing.
There are some that deny that this smuggling is happening at all.
It's happening. It's a fact.
Unequivocally,
it's
right?
Happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems a reality that some are, for whatever reason, are choosing to try to ignore. So, okay. Well, yesterday, President Trump announced a successful deal with China to restore rare earth minerals access to the United States, and we haven't seen necessarily all the details of that. We know there's been plenty of hardball negotiations that have been going back and forth. Michigan, my home state, proudly serves as the home of American car manufacturing. So I know firsthand how dangerous China's weaponization of rare earth supply chain is to our economy. I was hearing that repeatedly from suppliers as well as the OEMs, those original equipment manufacturers. President Trump stated that in exchange for China restoring access, the U.S. would, quote, provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges, close quote. Can you share any of the details of the recent agreement, and were any U.S. export controls on China included as part of that deal?
So the details are still to come, and discussions are going on now between the governments. So I'm not going to comment on the content of those discussions. But look, the discussions were largely, about the Geneva Agreement, making sure that China fulfilled its commitments from the Geneva Agreement, including the removal of non-tariff measures that it had imposed afterwards, such as those for rare earths. And it's such an important issue. As you know well, and your constituents know well, rare earths are a critical input for automotive supply chains, defense supply chains, other supply chains, and the administration has been committed, and we've been working very hard to make sure that those inputs continue to flow, that the industries and jobs that depend on them remain stable. And that's what we're focused on.
Okay. Well, U.S. export controls on China's AI capabilities are only effective if China is unable to produce an alternative technology stack at scale. Because of that, Chinese AI chips production capability is an important metric of success. Last week, Secretary Lutnick disclosed that China's AI chip production capacity is, quote, closer to 200,000 AI chips. Is that the formal position of the U.S. government, and is that their assessment? And what does that mean? And does that mean 200,000 Huawei 910Bs, 910Cs, or all Chinese AI chips? Can you shed some light on that?
So our assessment is that Huawei's Ascend chip production capacity for 2025 will be at or below 200,000. And we project that most or all of that will be delivered to companies within China. China is investing, I think it's important to say we shouldn't take too much comfort from that fact. China is investing huge amounts to increase its AI chip production, and as well as the capabilities of the chips that it produces. So it's critical for us not to have a false sense of security, to understand that China is catching up quickly, but that is our projection for this year.
Okay, my time has expired. The ranking member is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and actually thank you for sharing that announcement. You referenced the commerce announcement of the $200 billion deal, and the majority of that money is because of the CHIPS Act. So let's give some credit to Joe Biden. That is a big deal. So, Mr. Kessler, as you know, enforcing export controls on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine requires constantly updating the entity list to account for front companies and subsidiaries that pop up to circumvent the controls. And so in your testimony, you stated that you all have added 80 countries to the entity list. But in the nearly 6 months since President Trump took office, BIS has not added a single company to the entity list in relation to Russia's war on Ukraine, effectively allowing our controls to deteriorate.